Hey, Sun here. I'm a privacy and security researcher, and you're watching the Privacy Guides. Today's episode is about this little USB flash drive, which I believe is the world's most secure. This is such an amazing piece of gear, and I'm going to go down the rabbit hole today and explain why. Full disclosure, iStorage did send a unit for review, including an SSD hard drive version of it. But this one here that I'm talking about today, I actually purchased with my own money before they even shipped those products because I was so excited. The reason why I got so excited about this is a feature that I haven't found in any other USB flash drive or SSD for that sake. And that is that this has a secure element, and I'll talk more about it in a second, but the secure element enforces special security procedures on it, one of which is this device can be set as read-only. And that is actually enforced by the secure element. What that means is if you install an operating system on this, for instance, SuperBackedOS, an operating system that is designed without data persistence by design, well, what if that implementation without data persistence was faulty in a way and some compromise of it would try to persist data on it? Well, I always like having fail-safes of fail-safes in systems that I engineer. So in the context of SuperBackedOS, I was looking for some kind of a support that I could install SuperBackedOS on that would deterministically guarantee that the file system is read-only. And that here is probably the world's only device that actually does this. Now, and that's just really scratching the surface of why this is such an amazing USB flash drive. So let's kind of jump down that rabbit hole, and I'll explain a few things that I find stand out in this device. And I'll start with the price. You can get one of those in 16 gigabyte format, or size I should have said, for about $100. So the price is super affordable. It's something that I really appreciate in a company that creates software, I was going to say, but hardware with such high standards as iStorage. So looking at the kind of general product page here, they have like a whole lineup of devices. One that will write the files on an SD card, one that has a Bluetooth interface. The PRO², that's the one that I'm showing today, is my favorite, and I'll explain why. And then there's also a Pro, and then there's also this one here. What I'm really looking for is this little marking here. That means that it has a common criteria, EAL5+, hardware certified secure element. What that means is they had this device tested by an outside lab to simulate all kinds of threat models or attacks on the device. And this one here qualifies for common criteria. This one too here, but for the Bluetooth, for instance, it doesn't. Those devices have hardware AES 256 encryption. What does that mean? That means that when you send data to it, it is encrypted on device using keys on device. That is super cool. And given this has a pin entry keyboard, what that means is there's really no way for an attacker on the computer to exfiltrate the pin. You really have to exploit it at the hardware level, so the operating system is not aware of the pin at all. Once the pin is entered and it's the right pin, it will mount on the file system of the operating system, or it will mount as a file system on the operating system, like if it was any other plain normal USB flash drive. That's super cool. It's got a whole bunch of different capacities that are available, and that's something that I actually appreciate in the context of, for instance, installing SuperBackedOS on this stick. You don't need to have 256 gigabytes. All you really need is 16. So you can actually buy one of those for $100 in a 16 gig size, and that is really, really cool. The next thing here is it's actually FIPS 140-2 level 3 certified. Very few devices in the secure element world are certified that way because the certification process is quite expensive. That means that it really works in the context of enterprise very well, but at a price point of $100, it means that you and I can actually use those personally, and that's so cool. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of little things here that I'll discuss, but let's just pop open that page. That's the product page. So yeah, it's GDPR compliant, HIPAA compliant, CCPA compliant. It's pretty much everything compliant, to be honest. And it's got a few really cool features that I am so happy that a company would go that far. So one of them is when you enter a PIN, I don't know if you have an alarm system at your house, but if you have a PIN entry pad on your alarm system, you may have noticed after a few years that numbers that you press, they're worn out in a way that may reveal what digits you're actually entering. To that extent, they actually have poured a special coating on top here so that the numbers themselves don't get worn out as fast. I mean, who even does this? The other really cool thing is that the insides of this are actually covered in a really resistant epoxy coating. That means that if someone tries to open it to remove the secure element and attack it in a lab, there's very good probability that they'll hurt or damage the connectors on the secure element and won't be able to easily, brute force it on a bench lab. It's something that's very similar to Cold Card, by the way. I think the secure element in the datAshur Pro 2 is significantly better than what Cold Card uses, but don't quote me on this. I really haven't dug into it. I spoke with a researcher who kind of hinted that way. But something that's really cool with the Cold Card, though, is that it's transparent. So what you see right here is the epoxy coating on top of the secure element. So the purpose of this is the same. The purpose is so if you try to attack it physically, you'll have to remove the epoxy coating and you're probably going to damage the secure element. So yeah, this little device has that. Now looking at this here, another really cool feature of this that I kind of grown fond of is, you may see, maybe this won't focus here, but do you see right here, there's like a little rubber gasket. What that means is when you take the case that comes with it and you slot it in and you press, it creates a watertight seal. So not only is the device itself made of aluminum and is really good for heat dissipation, but it's also very good, to be crush resistant and stuff. But once it's in this case, it's ridiculously rugged and IP68 rated. So it's rated to be able to be submerged in water up to 1 meter, or actually 1.5 meters for up to half an hour, if I'm correct. Yes. So that's something that I really, really appreciate. Now, by the way, I think I'm going to create a whole episode on IP67 or IP68 devices. I'm obsessed by water resistant ratings. It just makes those devices so more rugged. So yeah, going down here, a whole bunch of different capacities. It's really designed for more niche use cases, but you can also just get a 128 or a 256 and put your backups on it. Actually, this might be a good segue talking about why, use this versus any plain old USB flash drive for backups. Well, obviously, full disk encryption. That means that whatever data you put on the datAshur is encrypted at AES 256. But one could say you can use a sparse bundle on macOS to create an AES 256 encrypted data set. Actually topic of an episode to come, so smash that subscribe button if you haven't yet. You can also use VeraCrypt, which I've talked a lot in the context of Linux, to create encrypted archives. You can use Lux to create encrypted partitions. So yeah, why would you want to use one of these devices if you can do it software-based? Well, I think I mentioned this in this take. First things first, the PIN entry is done on the device. So that means if you're worried about an attack that is software-based, maybe a keylogger or a screen capture exploit, well, those credentials cannot be sniffed. Now, obviously, if someone has that kind of access to the computer, they could also try to exfiltrate the data, but that may be detected by application layer firewalls such as Little Snitch. So yeah, it's just this added level of protection. The other reason that I find even more enticing is that if ever someone finds it in the street, say, or if someone steals your bag at the airport, they will have access to the device, but the device itself will reveal absolutely nothing about its purpose. If someone doesn't know the PIN, they cannot access the underlying file system. And if they can't access the file system, they have absolutely no clue of what's really going on. Is this for backups? Is this for corporate secrets? Is this to back up, super backed blocks? who knows, right? And that's something that I really, really appreciate of this. I actually use a Samsung bar. Let me show this, but I'll hide my keys. This is a Samsung bar with a nice little silicone waterproof thing. I'll create an episode, by the way, on all the silicone devices that or accessories that I'm obsessed about. But this is super cool for backups. And obviously I'm using an encrypted, data set on it. But if someone finds it, I'm still worried that they would have access to the files and they could try to brute force them, offline. The thing with encrypted file systems, when you have access to them, is that you can then right away hit them with GPUs and try to, brute force the passphrase. That's something that you cannot do as easily on this because it has brute force protection built into it, and you can have it self-destruct when the wrong pin is entered too many times. So it is incredibly more secure. Now, if you're paranoid, a bit like I am, you might want to have software-based encryption and also use this so you can have 2 layers of encryption, and that makes it ridiculously resilient to all types of attacks. Okay, looking at other features here, as I said, it's FIPS 140-2 level 3 certified, which is insane. It's got wear-resistant keypad, it's tamper-proof and evident by design. It's IP68. It's got read-only mode, which is insane. Operating it is a bit quirky. I'll link to the product manual down there in the description. But once you get a hang of it, it's really super easy. You just remember the kind of like different pin entry things to, switch it from read-only to write and stuff like this. At the beginning, I was a little overwhelmed by this, but trust me, once you get a hold of it, it's just like, takes a little while. It's pretty damn fast. So this device here, if my memory is good, actually, I won't go off memory. Let me see this here. So it's up to 168 megabyte per second read and 128 megabyte per second write. So it's actually very fast. It's much faster than my little Samsung bar, which is quite good. And if you're running an operating system on it, it's pretty good. Now, obviously, if you're running it as a non-persistent operating system such as Superbacked or Tails, well, what you're really looking for is the read because you can afford that initial write. But yeah, super good speeds. So yeah, looking back here, so it also has a self-destruct mode, which is pretty cool. And again, as I mentioned, I think earlier, brute force protection. So yeah, this is super, 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 super cool. Read-only is a game changer for me. It allows me to install Superbacked OS or Tails, making sure that the file system cannot write. And as I said, they have a whole bunch of other products. Let me just go on, browse that really quickly. They have also like a whole set of encrypted SSDs. They did send one of those here, the datAshur M2. I might review it in a separate episode. All of those are common criteria certified, which is really, really good. This one here is actually a little faster. I don't know if the specs are published. It's also IP68, same system with the aluminum sleeve. And no, they don't say the speed on this here, but I mean, I think it's about 300 megabits per second. Let me see. Yeah, so up to 370 for read and up to 370 for write. So if you need something that is faster, but you also want the same level of security and insane features as the datAshur Pro 2, you can get a datAshur M2. Yeah, so that's all I have for you today. Really great devices, very impressed. They own the patent, by the way, for a USB flash drive with a pin entry pad. So I know Kingston makes some of those. They're actually licensing iStorage's patent. And I'm pretty sure all other brands that you may have been using actually license iStorage's patents. So really an underrated company, in my opinion. I'll see you soon. Bye.